So quick introductions here. My name is Matt Carpenter. I'm a founder at College A Pro. Been doing this coming up on 20 years now, which is pretty amazing. It's all I've ever done. I do not know anything else professionally. This is it. Um, but I think with that, like I said before, I've really seen it all. I think I don't want to say that because of course I haven't, but we've worked with the wonkiest family dynamics. We've worked with the most unorthodox situations. Again, we've worked with the big, small colleges, the hardest to get into, the ones that have you name it, we've had experience and do have experience with them. So we try to share that with our audience because our job is to make this thing more transparent, right? A lot of this process is so hard because it's confusing, it's overwhelming, it's your kids and your money. No kidding, you're losing some sleep here. We like to consider ourselves, and I think we walk this walk, the source of truth. There's so much information out there. Where do I go? Who's got the right answer? We do. Okay. And we're excited to prove that here. And I'm talking a big game up for myself, but I play second fiddle in this band here to the fairy godmother of financial aid, Peggy Keough. And by the way, I'm just north of Boston, where our office is in Salem. I live in Beverly, Mass, what we call the North Shore here, and Peggy's outside of Seattle. So we got both coasts represented here. But Peggy, if you want to say hi and dive into the
Yeah. I'm
content,
from Jersey, but I live outside of Seattle. So I
that was
am a
important. I
Jersey.
left that most important
I
part out.
am, I am a Jersey girl. So somebody hearted it. Nice. All right. So we're super excited. I'm the biggest nerd on the planet. All this stuff just floats my boat. So I am the director of education here at CAP. I have a background in the financial industry. I have twins. I know there's somebody with twins on here because of the number of people we have. Yes, he just wrote me too. And when my kids hit high school, they're done with college. I'm not going to tell you how old they are because then you're going to figure out how old I am. But they're done with college. But when they hit high school, I did all that. How does this whole thing work? Not saving for college, but how does the whole college thing work? And I was shocked at how complicated it had become since I was a kid. And so at that point, pivoted. I started my own business years and years ago. Actually used the CAP software, beta tested it in my business, and knew the CAP guys for years, and ended up joining CAP about 3.5 years ago. And so this is what I do. I mean, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, and I love doing this kind of stuff. And kudos for being on here because a lot of stuff around this, because I know we have a few parents that have younger kids. It's not super easy to understand, and there's so much information on the web and on different websites, and I don't even want to talk about Facebook and all the advice that's shared. That drives me crazy because it's people that aren't professionals sharing advice with each other. So I'm very happy you're here. As Matt, he likes to say, where we think of ourselves as a source of truth. We're here to support you, and educating you is the foundation of this. So that's why we're here. One other housekeeping item. This is being recorded, so we will send it out to you. So if you want to watch it again, you need to share it with your kids, your spouse, whoever. Don't worry about that. That will be coming out to you tomorrow in a follow-up. All right, let me share my screen. And as Matt said, I think he said, he is one of the co-founders of College A Pro. So if you're new, we probably have a lot of groupies on here tonight. But if you're new to us, this truly is our mission, and empowering you to shop smarter for college. Again, not to be redundant, but by educating you, that's the foundation of all this. So that's what we're here to do tonight, and we'll talk about later how we can further support you. We have different ways of supporting you depending on how much support you need, how much ownership you want in this whole crazy process. So that is CAP, and here is the happy couple. Did you grab that link,
I
Matt?
did, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have the
So
correct
yeah,
link.
we strongly encourage you to set up your free MyCap account. We can see that a bunch of you did, but if you haven't, I know a lot of you have a class of 2025 child, might be an only child. This might be it, but it's really important to set this up because our software, there's a free version. You can put up to 3 schools in there. It gives you your estimates. and you will be able to use it as you move on to the next stage. You're going to do the forms, but then your kids are going to get financial aid award letters when they get accepted. You can upload those into the software. We'll translate them for you and break down the parts. We'll tell you if you should be appealing. Then once you're all done with that, we'll help you see like how much funding have you brought to the table for year one. So it's not just for building the list. It's extremely effective for that, to build an affordable list. But if you're through that and you just have one child, you still set it up. So Matt put the link in the chat. It's super easy. There's a few onboarding questions. If you're not sure about all the answers, don't worry about it, because you can always update those. Once you get on your dashboard, you just hit the profile tab and you can change them so that things get more dialed in. So go ahead and do that, because Matt's going to give super high level overview of financial aid now, just because I know some people, this might be brand new to you. You might have heard this for the second time from us. That's all good. It just helps solidify your learning. But then you'll be able to see, if you've got that set up, what this all means for your family, because it's important to understand how financial aid works. But the second piece, which is even more important, is where do you fit as a family? Because every family is different with their finances and the student and everything. So go ahead and click on that link and take care of that piece. All right, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Perfect. And yeah, awesome questions so far. Keep them coming, guys, and good job. Keep them in the Q&A too. You don't want to get on Peggy's bad side, and that's an easy way to
Yeah,
do it.
definitely pop them into the Q&A, because that's where we're looking.
So look at, obviously we're here to talk FAFSA tonight. We're going to talk FAFSA. And by the way, I've seen a bunch of questions and comments that, hey, we've already submitted the FAFSA. Even if you've already submitted the FAFSA and you learned some things tonight, you're like, oh man, I'd like to have that back, which is more than likely. I can tell you, it's not too late, right? We can still help you. You can still help yourself. So don't worry if you hear some things that are like, oh my God, it's too late. It's not too late. But it's always important for us to zoom out and provide some context. Why should we care about the FAFSA? What if we're not eligible for financial aid? How does this fit into the larger context? So I just want to spend a few minutes talking about that. And again, if you're just starting to pay attention to this stuff, you're probably asking yourself, well, what is financial aid? Anytime we're not paying full sticker price for a college, we're getting some type of financial aid. And there's three broad buckets, and that's what you see in front of you here. There's need-based grants, merit-based scholarships, and then self-help financial aid. The first two are what we want, because that's free money right off the top, money that we're not paying back, right? Money that's coming right off of the rack rate, the cost of attendance at these colleges. Need-based grants is dictated really entirely by your family's financial profile. And how do colleges determine your family's financial profile? They collect the FAFSA, they collect the CSS profile, or for a Princeton University, and that's just one example. We also have our own institutional application to determine your eligibility for need-based financial aid or lack thereof. There's one foundational formula, which I'm going to get to in the next slide, but basically in kind of the shortest terms possible, need-based grants are determined by the kind of strength or lack thereof of your family's financial profile, and then how generous or not a particular college is in meeting need-based financial aid. Now, again, Peggy gave you the link, and it's in the chat for how to create your free MyCap account to take the guesswork out of it, right? We'll tell you right away exactly your eligibility for need-based grants at any college in the country, okay? Merit-based scholarships. In some ways, this is the opposite end of the spectrum for need-based grants, because these are colleges that are saying, look, we don't care how much or how little your family makes or what your family has in savings. We're reading your admissions application. We think you're a great fit for our college. We want to give you a financial incentive to come here. That's a merit-based scholarship. So we're going to talk about how to find out exactly which colleges are going to give your kids scholarships and how much. The last bucket, we're least concerned with this bucket because self-help financial aid is a kind of a sexy term for loans, right? There's it makes sense to take advantage to some component of this, and I'm going to explain exactly which one every single person should take advantage of. Let me say that again. Every single person should take advantage of the self-help financial aid they're entitled to, which I will elaborate on in a few minutes here. But we're more focused on grants and scholarships, free money. Okay, Peggy, you can go to the next slide here. Something that we say ad nauseum, okay, and maybe is the most common answer we give to any question that we get. As a matter of fact, I've said it probably 3 times in the Q&A tonight. It depends on the college, right? Every college is different, and that's not a lazy answer. That's the truth, okay? So this is where it can just get so confusing, where it's like, you got to look at these 4,000 colleges like 4,000 private businesses, and they all run their businesses differently and they have different tweaks to their formulas. But so anytime there's a kind of universal formula, we want to make sure that we're crystal clear with how that works. And the good thing is that this is what we're looking at here. This is the foundational formula to determine every student's eligibility for need-based financial aid at every school in the country. Right now, again, there's intricacies, but in terms of a high-level formula, every school uses this, and that is the cost of attendance, right? So our sticker price. So when we go to Google, what's Columbia University going to cost next year? And it says $100,000, okay? Minus the student aid index, or SAI. This is a dollar amount that gets assigned to your kid, right? A dollar amount that gets assigned to your kid, largely based on your income and assets. Of course, there's other variables, but those are the two biggest drivers. If your SAI, if that dollar amount is less than the cost of attendance or the sticker price at a college, that dollar amount is the amount of need-based financial aid or need-based grants that your student is potentially eligible to receive here. Now, potential is the big word. That's why we have it underlined and bolded, because just because you're eligible for $60,000 worth of need-based grants out of college, that doesn't mean you're going to get it, right? Some schools will meet all of that, meaning they meet 100% of need. So if you're eligible for $60,000 at Columbia University, guess what? You're getting all of that, and you're going to pay 40 to go there. If you're eligible for $60,000 worth of need-based grants at uh, University of California, Los Angeles, and you don't live in California, guess what? You're getting none of it. Okay, even though you're eligible. So that's where it's very, very school specific, but high level, this is how the formula works. Go ahead, Peggy. Next slide, please. So look at, I can all but guarantee you, just by law of large numbers here in some of the areas of the country that you guys are tuning in from, some of you aren't going to be eligible for need-based financial aid, right? And there's no magic wand that I can wave or Peggy can wave or anybody can wave to change that. It's just the income, the assets, and some other factors are creating that dynamic where again, you might have put your numbers in our platform and they said your SAI is $200,000 a year. Well, fortunately, there's no colleges that cost $200,000 a year yet, but that tells us we're not eligible for need-based financial aid. But we don't want to pay $100,000 a year for college, 90,000, 70,000. So how do we get discounts? The most the biggest place we want to concentrate is figuring out which colleges are going to give us merit-based scholarships for how much that are also good fits for our kid. I'm going to show you in 2 minutes exactly how to do that. But before I do, some other talking points. The second bullet here, a lot of colleges, if you even want to be considered for need-based, or sorry, for merit-based scholarships, you have to complete the financial aid applications. You have to complete the FAFSA. If we're in NYU, one of the most popular colleges in the world, they have scholarships, but guess what? You cannot be considered for them unless you do the FAFSA and the CSS profile,
So I
regardless
just
of.
want to make sure everybody heard that, because a bunch of people have written in and said, why? I know I'm not eligible. Why should I submit? So that's one of the answers right there.
And guess what? The slide after this, I'm gonna go through a couple more bullets of like why bother, right? I'm gonna help you, hopefully tell you why we feel strongly about that. Okay, we'll present our case, and obviously you guys do what you feel is best. But that would be a big one at NYU, right? And obviously I'm using that as an example, but they're not the only college in the country. In the same breath, I have to also say that it's not common knowledge in my experience. A lot of families didn't know that not every college offers scholarships, right? There's not one Ivy League college that offers scholarships, right? Nobody is walking around Harvard or Dartmouth or Princeton or where, or for that matter, and it's not just Ivy Leagues. It's MIT, it's Tufts, it's Amherst, it's Williams, it's Bowdoin, it's Colby. None of these colleges, and there's about 100 of them, offer merit-based scholarships. So it's just important to know, especially if we have a really talented kid that's looking at some of these, really challenging schools. It doesn't matter how talented they are, they're not getting a scholarship there. So we have to understand that. Like this last bullet here in kind of this first category, I would argue is the least kind of common knowledge when it comes to this part of the process. We have to apply to competing schools. You heard me say these colleges are private businesses. They absolutely are. Yes, they're nonprofits. That just means they don't pay taxes. Okay. These are very sophisticated and in many cases, multi-billion dollar corporations. And they compete in a massive way with one another for their products. What are their products? The products are the students. We got to use that to our advantage as consumers, right? Like I mentioned I'm from the Boston area, so one of the most popular places in the world to go to college, right? And we have folks come from all over that want to maybe go to school in Boston. And an example I use all the time because it comes up all the time, right, is we'll have families that will go see Northeastern University and BU. And for any number of reasons, it's not uncommon that they'll love one college and not like the other at all, right? So, hey, look, we love Northeastern. We love the co-op program. We like how it has a campus around the city. We hated BU. It was too urban for us. We didn't like that it didn't have kind of that traditional quad. So we're not going to apply there. We're only going to apply to Northeastern. I won't let you do that. Okay, I will make you apply to BU. We know you have no intention to go there, but guess what? We're going to get an offer from BU and we're going to use it to get a better deal at Northeastern. This is especially mission critical if you're not eligible for need-based financial aid. You have to create leverage. Okay. And Peggy, if I could, let me just jump into the platform quickly, and maybe you might even consider sharing the link again. Give me 1 second here, team. So this is again is really cool to see that just about all of you have already created your accounts. Again, do it right now if you haven't. But so you already know your SAIs. You don't even have to take the anticipation out of submitting the FAFSA. And lo and behold, to further confuse things, there's not only a federal SAI that the FAFSA produces, there's an institutional SAI that the CSS profile produces, but doesn't show you in the same way that the FAFSA does. So you really never know what that number is unless you've created an account with us here or that range. That's kind of in some ways a distraction. I want you focused on what are these colleges actually going to cost you, right? Yes, the sticker price is relevant, but I want you focused on the net price. Okay. And this is a kind of down the fairway family, right? This is a Massachusetts family of four. They're a split household family. These parents are divorced. Okay. But as you can see, the $100,000 college is going to be more affordable than the in-state flagship university. It's going to be more affordable to go to Columbia than it is to go to UMass Amherst. Okay. And if this, like many families that are really concerned about the cost, and initially they're telling their kids, we're only applying to state schools. Guess what? That's going to backfire from an affordability standpoint. So I want you focused on what the schools are actually going to cost you. Don't get distracted by the sticker price. Okay. And when we talk about going to find scholarships, right, we can use the platform here to say, okay, hey, look it, I know that my kid is going to want to be at a 4-year school that's on the smaller side, and I think they're going to want to be closer-ish to home, and maybe they're thinking about majoring in bio. I can put any number of filters in here, okay, and then I can go to search. But then I can sort and just say, hey, just go rank those based on who's going to give my kid the most in scholarships, right? And we'll tell you, and maybe Wheaton wasn't on the list, but damn, if they're going to give us 40 grand regardless of our income, let's take a look. Maybe we just use it for financial leverage, or we are eligible for financial aid. Uh, okay, beautiful. Rank order that criteria based on who's really good with financial aid. Now, it's impossible to get into MIT, but here's some other colleges that are really good with need-based financial aid, maybe a little bit more palpable from an admissions standpoint. And if you want to see, click into any college. We have every single scholarship that they offer, the qualifications for each, and we're really good at telling you, how much is your kid actually going to get, if anything. So again, I know that's a little bit of a deviation from the FAFSA itself, but we're always got to look at this thing holistically, right? A FAFSA is just a piece of this broader puzzle.
All right, now we can get into the rest of the answers.
Yeah, and Peggy, I'll just do this last slide
Yep,
before
yep.
kicking to you. So again,
Yep.
this is always a great question. Why should I even submit these things, even if I know that I'm probably spinning my wheels here? Well, you're not. Okay. Number one, the most money that gets left on the table each year are people that disqualify themselves from financial aid Okay, because they assume they're not getting anything. And they incorrectly assume based on what their neighbor, their brother-in-law, their colleague at work told them. Obviously, they're not trying to mislead them. They have the best intentions, but don't make assumptions. Okay. And this is a huge one. So many people, they're like, well, I make, $350,000 and own my home and I have 500,000 in non-retirement. Doesn't mean you're not getting any base financial aid, right? Those are a couple of the formulas. So don't leave money on the table. Okay. I mentioned it earlier. A lot of these colleges, you want to be considered for merit-based scholarships, got to do the financial aid applications. Otherwise, you're telling them, I want to pay full sticker price, right? Let me pay full sticker price. This, in most cases, right? Most cases, if you don't apply for financial aid freshman year, you are telling that college, we will pay full sticker price for all 4 years. Let me repeat that. You don't get to change your mind sophomore year, junior year, somebody loses a job. You have a younger sibling coming to college. Sorry, guys, you didn't apply for a financial aid freshman year. You're not eligible for financial aid all 4 years. Okay. So you have to be able to answer that question very with a lot of confidence. Say, yeah, we're fine not paying paying full sticker price all 4 years. If you want to negotiate for a better deal, the word you're using is appealing here, consideration for appeals. They're not going to listen to you unless you've completed the financial aid applications. And guess what? Every single person should be doing this. Okay. Something that we have a ton of success with. But guess what? We don't have a chance to get a better deal if we didn't at least throw our hat in the ring and complete the financial aid applications. This second to last one here, federal direct student loans. This is what I talk about at the top. Every single person that submits a FAFSA, their student becomes entitled to borrow up to $27,000 over the course of 4 years for college. This is a loan that's just in their name, phenomenal repayment terms. They don't need a cosigner. They don't need established credit. They're not going to get a bill until 6 months after college. If your family needs to borrow anything, or if you're like us and you think it's a good thing for the kids to have some skin in the game, this is where you're going to start in terms of a loan. Take advantage of it. You're entitled to it. Let's say you don't want your kids to borrow anything. You don't need your kids to borrow anything. Perfect. Still take advantage of this program. Pay it off instantaneously. Your kids will graduate from college basically with perfect credit. In short, you really got to talk me out of why it's not a good advantage. Why it's not a good idea to take advantage of for some reason. All right, Peggy, I'll get out of your way, pal.
All right, let me just finish this question. All right. All right, so now let's start digging in here. So I know the FAFSA can be stressful as well as the CSS profile. So I wanted to find a nice relaxing picture, and we want to share that when you're doing these forms, you can take breaks. It's not like the SAT where it's timed and you have to sit there and big stress fest. You can save it, you can come back, and you can fix your mistakes. So some of you have shared, you filled one or both of them out. Both of the forms, you can actually put in corrections. If you haven't finished it, our goal is that you do it correctly the first time. You don't have to submit, but you can. So that might bring a little bit of stress down there. And just like this whole process, it just requires a lot of deep breaths. So let's get started. So we are focusing tonight on the FAFSA. The CSS profile is the other form. It's been live for a while. A lot of deadlines have passed, not all of them though. So we're not going to focus on that tonight. So it went live. It was supposed to go live December 1. It went live a little earlier. When you're on that form, you're going to notice, and Matt, I think, touched on this, but maybe not, because we did his part super high level. Everything is about 2023. It's called prior year. President Obama put this into place. So I've already answered questions, but I'm going to answer it for everybody. If your current situation has changed and there's been a job loss or somebody can't work or whatever it happens to be, it's worse, your financial situation, than what 2023 shows on your tax return, that is when you need to appeal. You can't submit with 2024 information. You have to follow, and I'm going to talk about how that works with your tax information in a minute, but you are going to be appealing. And that's something that we've helped thousands and thousands of families do. So that's a place we can support you. So just realize it's going to be 2023, but you're definitely going to be reaching out to the colleges. If you are divorced or separated, This is a key difference between the FAFSA and the CSS profile. Only one biological parent is submitting the FAFSA, and that's the parent. It's called a custodial parent, but it is not the parent that the student spent the most time with over the last year. That's what it used to be. The definition now is the parent who provides the most financial support on a year look back from when you're submitting the FAFSA. So if your first deadline is January 2nd and you're not doing it for a few more weeks and you're 50-50 with your ex, meaning 50 even financial support, figure out which parent is the most advantageous. Have that parent spend a little bit more money on your child. You're following the rules, you're being honest, and you're putting your best foot forward with the form. So the government left it gray. They didn't say whichever parent has the highest AGI, which is the second tier. But in my mind, in our mind, there is no second tier. If you're even, have one parent spend a little more. That makes more sense to be the custodial parent. Custodial parent can change from year to year, so it's not set in stone for all 4 years. Keep in mind, if one parent is remarried and they're the they're the custodial parent, it's going to be the whole household. It's going to be the new spouse's assets, the new spouse's income. There's no way to separate that. That's how it works. There's nothing, you can't appeal that. That just is what it is. So that's something to think about. If one person's remarried and one person isn't, that's potentially move the needle on which parent. So just keep that in mind. And this basically shares the same thing. I'm a financial planner by background. This is a tremendous planning opportunity where one parent can submit, and it doesn't matter which parent is claiming the child on the tax return. That doesn't have to match in financial aid. Okay. Now, let's talk about all different types of families. Who's submitting the FAFSA? Because we've already had some questions about this. So, and the entities that are submitting the FAFSA or a part of the student FAFSA, because it's technically the student's FAFSA, they're called contributors. This is a new term starting last year. Not the best term because people always think that means they have to contribute money, and it does not. It just means you're contributing your financial information, and you have to contribute it or the FAFSA is not going to be valid. So if you're married and you file your taxes with the tax status, filing status of married filing jointly, then only one parent needs to get the FSA ID and password. And I have a slide in a minute that has the URL to do that. You need to, the student needs to get, it stands for federal student aid, create a federal student aid ID and password. You go to the website, put in your birthday, social security number, answer some questions, create security questions, just like you do for a lot of banking websites. Send it off. It goes to the Social Security Administration. They verify that you are who you are. You get an email saying you're approved. If you haven't done this, you need to do it today. Get it done, because it's going to take a few days for the Social Security Administration to get back to you, and that's going to hold you up. And if you have deadlines looming, you got to do that and get it done. So the student definitely needs it, and students can't share. I already answered that question. Each student is doing their own FAFSA. So if you have triplets, you're doing 3 FAFSAs. I did 2 FAFSAs every year. They're for each one of my kids, and then I was part of it with my financials and my husband's financials. Okay. So if you're married filing jointly, only one FSA ID needs to be established for the parents. The reason why is when you log in, and I'm going to show you this in a few minutes on a screenshot, you're going to be required to consent and approve for your financial information to move from the IRS into your FAFSA. Very few people are going to fall under the exception where they're going to manually enter it, and you don't have a choice. The government will say, hey, you fall under the exception, fill it in. Most people are not going to be doing that. Unlike 2 years ago where you could make the choice, and back in the old days, you can't. So you're going to consent to that. So if you're married filing jointly, you only have one return. Only one person needs to consent for both parents. If you're married, on the flip side, but you file separate returns, you file married filing separately, and you each have a return, you each need to go through the process to get the FSA ID and password, because you probably guessed it, you each have to consent for your tax information to flow into your part of the FAFSA that will be a part of your child's FAFSA. If you're divorced or separated, only that custodial parent that I just talked about is going to get that FSA ID, because as I shared, that's the only parent that's involved on the FAFSA. So the other parent doesn't need to get anything because their data isn't on the FAFSA. They don't need to consent to anything because nothing is shared. So that's how it works with the different family situations. So go ahead, get that right away. Like get it, I mean, not to be alarmist, but you need to get it unless you have deadlines way down the road, but still just get it and get it done with. Here's the URL you need to go to. If you Google it, you'll get here. Make sure you're on studentaid.gov with the extra, because there could be copycat sites out there that are trying to get you to share your social security number, which you don't want to do on a site where you shouldn't be doing it. Okay. You can log in and see that that's processed in a couple days, but you will, maybe more than a couple days, you will get the email from the Social Security Administration. So that's the first thing. You need to do it now. This is, and a few people asked this, so this is best practice to submit. This is directly from Federal Student Aid. You can see I just did a screenshot from one of their decks, because it's their baby. So I'm presenting it the way that they presented it. It makes sense. So the student is a contributor, and so is the parent, or potentially more than one parent, depending on the family, could be somebody else. Okay. So what we recommend you do is student goes to FAFSA.gov, and I have a slide on that in a minute. Use the FAFSA, the FSA ID and password, log in, and then this is going to be the flow. Okay. There's a personal circumstances. Then the student is going to actually invite their contributors. They're going to get an email that they can go in through to get into their part of the FAFSA. Student goes through, finishes their section, and I've got some screenshots, so don't worry. Give you some visuals, puts in their colleges, signs it. Parent goes to their email, finds that invite and goes in. Or if you don't see the invite, make sure you look in your spam, your promotions folder. If you have Gmail, you can, if you don't see it, you can log into your FAFSA.gov account, because you have your FSA ID and password, the parent, and there should be something in there that says accept. And then you can go in that way too. So if you don't see the email, don't worry about it. Then you're going to go in as the parent or the other contributor, and there's less sections, you notice, right? But you'll automatically be linked to the student that you're contributing to. So again, you go to FAFSA.gov, it'll take you to a different URL, but this is easy to remember. And you're going to do start 25-26. Down below, it'll still mention 24-25, because people can still submit that for the spring semester. Don't make that mistake. Your child is going to be in the 25-26 school year. Click to start. Again, you're logging in with that FSA ID and password. Then there's two-factor authentication. So you're going to, and you do this on banking sites, this isn't going to be new, right? So your child, when maybe you help them set up their FSA ID and password, they probably picked that they wanted to be texted. Maybe they wanted to get an email. You're going to need that code to get into the FAFSA. You're going to need it to get into your side of the FAFSA. So be aware of that when you're working on this. Then once you're in, it's going to ask you to review your information, some basic stuff. That's easy. Then it's going to say, all right, welcome. Who are you? Are you the student and are you the parent? We're going to go in as the student. Then there's going to be a set of 4 videos. Go ahead and watch those videos. If they're not long, it gives you a good overview of what you're about to do. Then you're going to consent and approve, which is what I talked about. So you got to click this approve button, read through everything. And at that point, the government's going to say, or the FAFSA, FSA is going to say, hey, we're moving over your data from the IRS. And it'll load. And most of the time, it just will say success. If you get something that says we can't do it, you might fall under an exception. Then you might have to manually enter it. But for most people, and we've done thousands of these already, our team of experts, we're not seeing a lot of glitches. Most people, it's just smooth sailing, which is lovely. So then you're into the FAFSA. And there's these sections that I showed you on the best practices slide. So we're in the personal circumstances. A lot of this stuff is pretty straightforward. There's some questions to see if you're going to be independent or not. Some students have unusual circumstances. So just when you're in here, make sure you just read everything carefully. Don't rush through it. Most students are going to hit no here because, thank God, they're not a victim of human trafficking, or they're not, in abusive environments. But if any of that is true for the student, then you're going to mark yes. And there'll be other questions. You're going to have to provide some documentation of that. But then the student will fall under a different track. But we're going to assume that the answer is no, and that student is considered a dependent student, meaning the parent information needs to be provided. So this question isn't new, but it's kind of confusing. So we just want to make sure everybody gets it. This is basically saying, are the parents refusing to provide their financial information on the form? And basically, they just want their child to do this to get the unsubsidized loans, which anybody can get. All you need to do is have the FAFSA on file. Most people should mark no here because the parent is going to provide their information. If you mark yes, you will get a pop-up saying, FYI, you will not be eligible for most federal aid, and you also won't be eligible for institutional aid at most schools in the country because they use the FAFSA to give out their endowment money. And that's the best source of the discounts that Matt was talking about. So if you messed up, then you can return to the form and change it. Okay. Then they're going to ask a couple questions about the parents, and then you're into the invite. This is where I mentioned earlier, you're going to fill in the contributor information, make sure it perfectly matches the FSA ID. So use the same email that your parent used. If the student is doing this, if you're doing it with your child, make sure you've got it dialed in exactly, because otherwise that will mess things up and you could get error messages. You see there's 2 columns here, and you see it says optional in really small letters here. You can fill that in. A lot of people just, if you're married filing jointly, you can not fill it in. When you get to your part, you're going to put the spousal information anyways. So that's the invite. Don't stop and go look for your invite. Just keep going. Then you're in the demographic section. This is pretty straightforward, so I didn't do a bunch of screenshots, which you put in your high school. There's a bunch of questions that aren't mandatory. You can say prefer not to answer around ethnicity and race. That doesn't affect your aid package. It's just the Department of Ed gathering statistics, basically. Then you're into the financials piece. So for most people, as I've said, you will not be entering adjusted gross income, taxes, earnings, because it auto polled, and it told you it auto polled earlier. Some students, a lot of students actually don't file, right? They don't need to file a tax return. So they're going to ask here. And if you did file, it'll move it over. If you didn't file, then they're going to ask for that information. And for most students, if you had a job and you made money babysitting or mowing lawns or whatever it was, and I'm dating myself because I don't know if any kids mow lawns anymore, but you put that in, right? The other things that you're going to see in the
Peggy, let me give you a breather for a second here. But
Sure.
so a couple things, guys. We have to any questions you have, put them in the Q&A, right? We're only able to monitor one place. We don't monitor the chat. We won't get to every question. Okay. Again, nobody's ignoring you. We're just outgunned here. We have several hundred questions. We've answered over 100 already, right? We won't get to them all. So don't take it personal if we don't get to yours. And again, oftentimes the answer are going to be, we would need more information. We need more detail. So if you want to give yourselves a shot to get a question answered, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. And again, if we don't get to it, I'm going to talk in 10 minutes about, where you can go to get your answers.
Okay. So in the financial section, you will have to answer questions about assets, checking and savings, net worth of investments. That's everything else that's non-retirement, secondary real estate, not your primary home. You don't want to overvalue your real estate or your business, because all businesses need to be listed on there, and that's something we help people with. We can't answer that in the Q&A. We need to know more about your situation to effectively give you advice. Then the parent's going to be asked about number in college. That's an easy one. Make sure you fill that out if you have twins so the college knows. And then family size. That has last year and this year. It frequently pops up incorrectly. So please look at the number that they share of your family size and you can update it, because if you have a family size of 4 and they have 3, the bigger the household or the family, the lower your SAI. So every little bit's going to help. So make sure you check that. And as I said, most people are not going to be submitting income information because it's going to auto pull. Okay. So that's what happens in the financials. Then you're on to the colleges. You can put up to 20 colleges. This is only in the student portion. Make sure you put in the school and make sure you answer all the questions. Are you living on campus? They're going to ask you a bunch of stuff. At the end, you can review it and make sure all the schools are there. Very important, send 20 at a time. If you have more than 20, you have to let those schools process, and you can go on the studentaid.gov onto the account of the student and look to see if it's been processed. After it's been processed, you can delete some and send to more schools, but you have to wait. Make sure those are all in there. And then this is the review section. This is actually a screenshot of the parents review section, so it's a little shorter because there's less categories. Like I said, student one's going to look the same. It's just going to have colleges on here. Click on the caret. I strongly recommend look it over. Maybe you put an extra 0 or 2 on your checking account by accident, right? You were on the button too long. Just go in there, review it carefully, make sure it looks all good. If it's all good, then you go ahead, click the box, sign and submit, okay? Then it's submitted, you're gonna get this. It's gonna say, great, you're almost there, because the student has submitted, the contributor has not, and you might have 2 people listed here as a contributor. It tells you that the invite was sent, then the contributors are gonna, like I said, go to their email, click on it, or they're going to log in. If they don't see that and they look in their spam, they're gonna log in to their studentaid.gov account, scroll down, and you should see this accept invitation. You do that, then the parent is into their side of the FAFSA. They follow the 3 sections. They're going to submit and sign just like the student. They're not going to put in colleges. They're not going to repeat all the information that the student put in or you helped your child put in on their side. It's just going to be your financials, the auto move, the IRS data, unless you fall under an exception. You're going to put in your assets. You're going to answer the question if you're divorced or separated around child support. And it's child support on the previous calendar year that was received. I know it's confusing. There's all these different prior year. So it really depends on when you're submitting the FAFSA. If you submitted January 2nd, you're going to do child support that you received if you're submitting the FAFSA, if you're the custodial parent for 2024. If you're submitting the FAFSA in 3 days, you're going to put in child support about 2023, whatever the year before was. So that question will be on there as well. So there's a few slightly different, but still the same thing about assets and, I mean, checking, savings, and net worth of investments and business, just like the student one, okay? Then when you submit that, this is what you're going to get, or a version of this. It might just say, congratulations, the FAFSA is complete, and give you a completion date. Depends on the order of how you do this. We're telling you one order. There are other ways, but we don't want to confuse you by saying you can do it this way or you can do it this way. If you do it a certain way, you might see this, but you don't need to see this, okay? The student is going to get an email after the FAFSA is complete. All the contributors have submitted, and that's part of the student's FAFSA. They're going to get an email saying, here's your estimated SAI. Once it's processed, the student, and you can be with your child, log into their studentaid.gov account. There's something called a FAFSA submission summary. That will say the SAI in there. But the key thing here is to grab this, screen print it, print to PDF, whatever you want to do, so that you have this completion date. Because if for some reason it doesn't show up as submitted, then you have proof that you did submit it, and then you'll have to go digging to figure out why the college is saying they didn't get it. But you want to make sure you're not missing deadlines, okay? So screenshot that, and then your child needs to be checking their email. Throughout this whole applying to college process, students need to be all over the email that they give the colleges. It's just the nature of the beast. I know kids aren't big into email, but they need to do that and then forward to you. And then they'll share a little bit about the FAFSA submission summary. So as we said, this has been going pretty seamlessly. So that's how it works. Key tips, I've already talked about a bunch of this. No retirement accounts on the FAFSA, no home you live in included in your net worth of investments. The equity in that home is off limits, not on there. If you have a 529, only the child that you're submitting the FAFSA for, that's the balance that should be in there. If you're the owner, it's part of your net worth of investments, not your child's, and only that child. If there's a question about work study, just click yes. It doesn't obligate you, but if that's applicable, you want to make sure you have that available. Your SAI that you see in your MyCap account that all of you have hopefully set up by now, that's not necessarily the maximum you're going to be expected to pay. Just keep that in mind. And as I've said, don't overvalue your business or your secondary real estate. We can step in and help you. And as always, do not miss deadlines, because then colleges will say, you missed a deadline, so we're going to give you less money. Don't give them an excuse to do that, right? So you've got to go to the college's websites and know what their deadlines are. So that's the FAFSA. We started with a whale picture, and now that's my dog, Ashling. She's a bull mastiff, so I don't know. If you're not a dog person, it might not bring you a little relaxation after you saw all these screenshots, but hopefully for most people, and the emojis are flying. Love it, love it. So anyways,
Yeah,
I'm
so
trying
let's
to,
yeah, no, thanks, Peggy, because I think it's important to bring some levity to this. But I know,
yeah,
and look at the questions were amazing. Keep them coming. We're going to keep doing the best we can right to the buzzer here. So we're not done. But I want to do a ton of your questions were like, I need help. What can I do? We don't know which parents should go. How do we negotiate with the colleges? Which one of us should complete the CSS profile? How do we value the business? How do we value the home? All these questions that you need answered before we submit the FAFSA. Or if you've already submitted the FAFSA, I told you it's not too late. We can still help you. I'm going to talk about the three different ways we can help you. You got to take some action here, right? There's too much at stake. There's too much kind of money on the line here, and we're in the business of helping people pay less for college. That is ultimately, I think, what we do at its core. And I'm going to start with kind of our first kind of package, for lack of a better word here. These are what we call our wake me up when it's over package. Now we have admissions packages that are fitness category as well. It's too late for the class 2025. If you're class 2000, they're kind of quote unquote sold out. But we have a few more. And again, I say usually we do not this late in the year. As a matter of fact, we were closed and we just kind of reopened up based on a bunch of demand here that was a little bit later than we're accustomed to. But I want to walk you through this. I mean, first things first, I mentioned to Peggy and I specifically at the top, but we've been doing this an awful long time, especially when we include our extended team. We get the director of financial aid at Harvard on our team, at MIT, the former director at USC, the director of scholarships at University of Oklahoma, the former director of admissions at BU. These are all people that we interact with every single day that are on our team that are helping families that are currently going to these colleges and other colleges. Okay. Most people decide to work with us. There's a lot we do to help you. We take, a lot of this stuff off your plate. We grab the wheel. You don't have to worry about who needs what, where, when, how. But quite frankly, most people hire us because they say, look, if I'm going to invest in the services of College A Pro, I expect to save money. And that is why you should hire us, right? Beyond anything else. It's nice with these intangibles, but and here's the data, and we can stand tall on this. And quite frankly, this is a conservative number. On average, families that decide to employ our services, they save $70,000. Okay. Said another way, families that choose not to work with us on average end up overpaying about $70,000 a year for college. Okay. In any number of ways, which I'm going to walk through in a second here. We save you a lot of time, right? And I think I don't want to completely discount that because that's time you get back with your kid, right? Especially in your senior year. They're going to college. They're off to college in a matter of months now, which is insane. But I want to tell you exactly what this package involves, right? Our Wake Me Up When It's Over package. Number one, whether or not you've submitted your FAFSA and or CSS profile, we will take that over. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do if you've submitted them is analyze exactly what you submitted and very likely make changes. 80% of families on average report something on their FAFSA or CSS profile that ends up costing them money. Okay, so we're going to get in there and very likely have some changes. We'll take care of that. If you haven't submitted them and maybe you've started either of those forms, put your pencils down. We're going to take over. Obviously, if you haven't started at all, no problem. We're starting from scratch. We will complete and submit all of those. We will make sure that, again, they're submitted in such a way that we're maximizing our discounts. And there's a whole bunch of things that we'll deploy in order to do that. I know you're very late in the process, but we're just going to want to gut check that list of colleges to say, are there any others we should throw an application in here just to create leverage, just to give ourselves a negotiating chip, which kind of brings me to the next part of the process, and that is appealing for financial aid. So a lot of you, or some of you, might have been accepted ED already. We're very busy right now, and we've had a ton of success already in negotiating with ED acceptances, right? Appealing for more financial aid and or scholarships to these colleges. We've done it already. We specifically at Boston College, we had a bunch of huge wins this week, and that's just one example that is sticking in my head because we were talking about it earlier today. But that is something that we're very, very busy with. We're very, very good with. Okay. So and the last, and I don't want to discount this, the last major part of the process, once we know where we're going, right, we're going to get that cost down as low as it can possibly go. But even if we have a smashing success, we still got to come up with, in many cases, a challenging amount of money. How do we do that? When do we use our 529s? All up front? Do we spread it over 4 years? If we have to borrow, how do we get the lowest loan rate, right? We do that for you, and that's an important piece of the puzzle. So we're only going to do 5 of these guys because that's all we can staff. We're going to get rid of these tonight, and we're going to get rid of them pretty much right away. But if you're even thinking about this, and you can do it, and I'll show you here. You just go through what's now 20. You sign up through this link here, okay, and it will give you the option. Do I want to pay monthly, or do I? And by the way, if you pay monthly, there is a there is a finance fee here. It's not working for me, but it should allow you the time to pay. Okay, there you go. Or if you want to pay one time, right? And I go to pay here. It'll give me the opportunity to add my promotional code. Okay, now 20, and you can apply, right? And that'll automatically reduce it by the $700. Okay, and there's no interest fees or anything like that, unless again you go to do the monthly plan, and then there will be some interest attached to that. But if you're even thinking about it, sign up for that tonight, guys, because we're going to give you, again, it's going to guarantee that we can take care of you. And let's just say you're like, oh my God, I should do this, but I haven't got a chance to talk to my partner or talk to my ex-partner maybe. Sign up tonight to make sure that you lock in the discount. It expires at 12 Pacific time tonight or 11:59 Pacific time tonight. Again, you'll make sure that you get on the roster. You'll get the discount, at least the first 5. And if you have kind of tomorrow, you're like, I don't know if you're having buyer's remorse or you didn't get to talk to your partner, your ex-partner, you can write into support@collegeaidpro.com and say, I want to talk to Matt, and just make sure that this is the right fit for me and my family. We'll find a time to connect tomorrow, have a quick chat. Or again, if you're relaying this information to your partner and they want to hear it direct from me, ask their questions, we'll make sure that we do that. And if we talk and you find out, you know what, I got overzealous there, we'll give you 100% refund, no questions asked. But if you know this is speaking to you, do it. And I know when we're talking about spending all this money for college, the last thing you want to do is spend $2,800. You're gonna get a return on this investment many times over. And actually, Peg, though, this is your Christmas present, your Hanukkah present, whatever you celebrate to you. Okay, get this present for you, okay? Because again, it's not only gonna save your family money, it's gonna kind of bring down the temperature, in this whole process by having. And I didn't mention this. You're working one-on-one with us, right? One-on-one with our expert for unlimited hours until your kid's moving into their dorm. And even if you're class 2026, same deal. One-on-one, unlimited hours until they're moving into their dorm. So don't hesitate, jump all over that. If you're somebody that is just saying, hey, look it, I I'm freaked out by these forms. I don't care about the negotiating piece. I know how to pay the bill. I don't care about applying to competing schools. I only want help, right, with these financial aid applications. You can sign up just for this, and I know you've shared this link, this landing page, Peggy. I walked you through the full Wake Me Up When It's Over service. If you just want help with the forms, right, we'll do that. So we'll do the FAFSA. If you've already completed the FAFSA CSS profile, we'll review it. You'll meet with one of our experts. And again, when I say our experts, director of financial aid at Harvard, MIT, etc. Okay. And again, not only are we completing and submitting these, but you'll also get an hour with these experts one on one. They're incredible. And again, if you purchase that tonight, you get $300 off. Okay. Again, we have a limited amount of these just where we are in the year. If you're class 2025, you have less urgency if you're class 2026 for this package, but the discount will expire tonight. Lastly, and again, you have to do this at a minimum. If you say, look, I don't care about the forms. I'm a DIYer, right? If I'm not a DIYer, but if you are somebody that is a DIYer, right? You paint your own house, you retile the bathroom, you change your own oil, right? You would never outsource a service like this, and you're going to do your own forms. Know what you need to do at a minimum? Book an hour with one of us. If you've submitted the CSS profile, if you submitted the FAFSA, let us review them, right? You've already got your award back, okay? You've submitted both of those. You got your ED award back. You want help appealing, negotiating for more money, book your hour and use it for that, okay? And again, same thing, use this coupon code. You get the, whatever it is, 50 minus 20, $70 off. In addition, to the hour, you'll get a year of our premium membership, right? You'll be a year of our membership in the club, as we call it. And let me just show you again how to do that if you want to book the hour. Just within your MyCap account, right? It'll say upgrade here. You just click on that button. You select the software plus expert. You put in the coupon code for now 20. And again, we're talking about these big scary prices for colleges. This is making a proactive investment in which you're going to see a return on. Obviously, the more you invest in us, the more we can promise in terms of a return, tangible ROI there. But you're going to get it at whatever level kind of speaks to you and you know who you are. But our thing would be do something, take action, right? There's kind of too much at stake here. Don't just kind of pay attention tonight and then go back to, putting your head in the sand, so to speak. And now 20 is the coupon code, guys. Yeah, and good question here. If you buy an hour and you're like, hey, you know what? This was great, but it also opened my eyes up to the fact that I just need more help. Then you can upgrade and credit that hour towards the full service. What I can't guarantee is that we'll still have packages available after that. We may, but I can't guarantee that. If you already have a membership, right? If you already have a membership, that means you're already on the premium version. When you go to, it'll say talk to an expert here, right? Just like mine does. If you're not on premium, it's going to say upgrade. If you're on a part of our club already, part of the membership, it'll say talk to an expert. And you just use coupon code member50 and it'll give you $50 off of that hour. And actually try the now 20 coupon code as well. That might work. But both of those, see which one gives you the bigger discount. Because I'm not exactly sure, to be honest. But you will get a discounted hour either way.
Really consider what Matt just talked about, if one of those ways to support you, because most people are not 100% DIYers, especially in this space, okay? You have to submit the FAFSA. Just because you did the CSS, you're not done. And as Matt said, a lot of people make mistakes on the CSS. I don't know if Matt said that, but one of our experts says it all the time, who used to run financial aid at USC. So we'll look that over and make sure that everything looks good as well. But yeah, you're not done. You have to submit the FAFSA as well. And we went through all those reasons. Even if you have a high SAI and you're seeing that in your MyCap account, why it's very important to submit the FAFSA. So
yeah, and even if you're class 2027, that will carry you, right? You sign up today, that will carry you until your kids moving into their dorm 2 years from
Yeah, it's
now.
actually a screaming deal because you get all the time.
There
It's
you
not
go.
an annual, it doesn't re-up
Yeah,
annually.
exactly. And the way to look at it, guys, again, in terms of differences, our Wake Me Up Over package, we do everything for you. Okay. If you're just booking an hour doing the membership, that's if you say, hey, look, I'm a DIYer, but I want somebody to stare over my shoulder a little bit here for a part of it. And again, if we're physically doing the forms for you and meeting with you to discuss strategy, etc., that's kind of our middle tier here. But again, get yourself the Christmas present, get the stuff off your plate, and do it in such a way that you're gonna.
Or
Uh,
any sort of holiday present.
sorry,
It could even be, Festivus. This the
Festivus. Festivus.
Seinfeld originated holiday. So
That's
it
true.
doesn't have to be Christmas, doesn't have to be Hanukkah, or it could just be a gift to yourself. Because everybody loves getting a gift for no reason. And I'm speaking
All
about
right.
myself, of course.
All right, Peggy.
All
Love you,
right,
buddy.
guys, have a great night. See you next time.
Bye.